Now, any Excel workbook that was created in Excel 2007 or Excel 2010 that you send to somebody who has an earlier version of Excel, like Excel 2003, XP 2000, or 97, if they try to open up your file, Excel is going to prompt them to download a compatibility pack. Now, if you know your coworker, your friend, or family isn't adept at downloading the compatibility pack and how to install it, and it's just a big fuss for them, or you think it might be more work than it's worth, you can go ahead and save your Excel 2010 file, which I have up here as my quarterly sales, into that earlier version. When you save it or you convert it to an earlier version, it actually removes the XML language, so it's compatible with those earlier versions of Excel. In other words, up here you can see on the title bar, as we discussed in an earlier training video, those earlier versions of Excel have the extension of .xls. They don't have the extra X, which again connotes extensible markup language. So to go ahead and convert it, it's really simple. Come up here, click on File, go down to Save As. This little Save As window pops up, and as you recall in an earlier training video, it will ask us two questions. Where do you want to save it, and what name do you want to give it? Well, I'm okay with saving it in the Exercises folder, so I'll go ahead and leave it there. If I don't like it, I can come over here in the navigation pane and choose the desktop and double click on another folder and save it in there, but I'll go back to my Exercises folder by either double clicking on it or just hit the back arrow. It takes me back. I'll go ahead and give it a new name and call it maybe My Quarterly Sales 2, and then to save it in an earlier version of Excel, Excel 97 through 2003, I got to save the type. Instead of having it as the Excel Workbook 2010 type, which has the extra X, click on the drop-down arrow. It opens up, and I'm looking for the earlier versions. Excel 97 through 2003, select it. Looks good. Click Save. And before I click Save, notice how all the workbooks in here disappeared. The reason why they disappeared, they're not deleted. They disappeared because the extension I'm currently saving it in doesn't have that extra X, so it hides those that it doesn't match what type that we have displayed or that we're saving it in down below. So if I click on the drop down arrow and go back to the type that all these others in that folder have, the same extension, then it shows up. So let's go back to click Save, and then look up here on the title bar. It now removed the X, or the barrier, the extensible markup language that the earlier versions aren't compatible with. Close out. Let's check it out. Double click and open up the Exercises folder, and there it is. It's got the extension XLS, and when I hover over it, it gives me a little pop-up reminder. It says, hey, this is for the Excel workbooks 97 through 2003. Well, not strictly for them, but it's compatible with them. I can still open it up in Excel 2010. Just double click. Opens up in 2010, and as we learned in an earlier training video, because it was saved or created in an earlier version of Excel, it's now going to be in compatibility mode in Excel 2010. In which case, you can watch my other training video, how to convert your earlier versions of Excel, because the benefits of having it in the latest version of Excel 2010 with that extra X is because the file is more stable, and if it gets corrupted, some of the sectors or modules within the file, you'll still be able to access other parts of it. So again, File, to convert it, say it's okay to convert it, say it's okay to close it and reopen it in that new format. Well, the Excel 2010 version adds the extra X, close out, come back here. It converted it, added the extra X, and I'm good to go. Oh, and one more thing. When I converted this workbook to an earlier version of Excel before I converted it back to the latest version of Excel 2010, it was pretty easy and simple. There were no intercompatibility issues with the formatting. For example, let me go ahead and double click and open it back up. As you recall in the previous training video, I came up here and I selected the range and I applied some fancy new formatting that's only available in Excel 2010. I came up here on the Home tab to the Styles group, clicked on the conditional formatting drop-down arrow, went down to data bars or data bars, came over here and chose some bars, clicked on it, click off in a blank area. Now, if I go ahead and I tried to save this to an earlier version of Excel, so the user is not prompted to download the compatibility pack, because remember, Excel 2010 has that extra X up here in the extension, meaning that it's based upon an extensible markup language format or foundation. Well, as long as I just have pure raw data in the Excel workbook, not a problem. But if I have fancy new formatting, that's going to be another compatibility issue. So if I come up here, for example, and I click on Save As or go File to Save As, and I go back to saving this instead of Excel 2010 with the extra X, click on the drop down arrow and choose Excel 97 through 2003, and I click Save. Well, let's go ahead and let's change the name here. Let's delete that and call it my quarterly sales 3. When I click Save, it would cleanly convert the workbook over if it just had raw data, but again, I've got these fancy new formatting features that are only available in Excel 2010, so when I click Save, it's going to prompt me with a compatibility checker. Again, we just covered that in the previous training video. So it says, look, if you want to keep all your fancy new features, then click Cancel. Otherwise, those who open it up in an earlier version, well, they may not be able to see it. It may be completely removed. There's no guarantee or promise on this, okay? So either go ahead and remove it or just continue and then go ahead and email it off to them. Now when I converted it, you'll notice that it's still there because Excel 2010 can read its own conditional formatting here. So let me go ahead and close out, and if I go ahead and let me open it back up, you'll see that some of the feature that was available in Excel 2010 has been lost. Like it used to have a little bar here, and the bars used to look a little bit more solid. Well, it's trying to work in compatibility mode here, which for Excel 2010 is doing a good job. But if they try to open it up in Excel 2003 XP, unless Microsoft did some updates, they probably won't see any of the data bars here. So if you send them an email with this file attached to it saying, hey, look at the graphics, the data bars, and they open it up and they just see the raw data, they're like, bars, what are you talking about? So keep that in mind, okay, when you go ahead and you want to save this in an earlier format. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, as soon as I upload a new video, you'll be notified instantly, and you can do that by coming over here and clicking on my face. You can also click here to support me, so for $2 a month, you can have access to over 2,700 training videos, all ad-free, and for a few bucks more, you can have access to my exercises, instructor notes, quizzes, certificate of completion, and a whole lot more.